It's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So I've had to start a little bit earlier than I was planning. Mondays are a busy day as far as Spanish classes are concerned. So those of you who know me and my channel, you know that in my other life, I am a teacher, a Spanish teacher, and I have classes this morning. So I need to go through what's happened in the trial. Because of course, in this mushroom murder trial, this trial of Erin Patterson, this lady, there's been a little break, hasn't there? Friday finished early because Fridays they do finish early. Then there was a bank holiday in Australia yesterday. So it's been quite a few days since there's been anything going on. And it's back with a vengeance. Erin is back being cross-examined for the attempted murder and triple murder of these poor souls that went to lunch at Erin's house and ate beef Wellington that was laced with death cap mushrooms. That is not in dispute. The dispute is, how did those death cap mushrooms get into that beef Wellington? Did Erin do it deliberately, or was it all a tragic accident? This is really the crux of this case, isn't it? And when we finished on Friday, Erin was giving her evidence. She'd given her evidence. She was being cross-examined by the prosecutor, Nanette Rogers, who I've got a picture of somewhere here. And she was facing the cross-examination of the prosecution lawyer, Dr. Nanette Rogers. And that's where we were. Now, there's been lots of lies, of course, that have been exposed from Erin. We know that. That's why we call her Pinocchio. I think there's no doubt about it. Erin is economical with the truth, isn't she? So I've got a new little buzzer that every time we see a lie, I mean, of course, the members have got the Pinocchio emojis to put up, but also every time I think Erin's been caught out in a lie, I'm going to be playing that siren. So so as I say, I have to rush through a little bit because I have classes. Also, I'm waiting for a shopping delivery, so that'll happen in the middle of everything. I was hoping it'd happen before I started, but that's not likely to happen. But so, it's all going to be chaos as usual. So thank you to all of you for liking, for subscribing, for watching. Special thank you as always to my members. Special thank you to those of you who buy me Ko-Fis, send me super stickers, nice emails, leave nice comments, are interested in the cases that I cover. Thank you so much. So let me take that off now. And hi, lovely lurkers, and hi, replay crew. And let's see who's in the chat at this ungodly hour of the morning for a lot of people. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, Yvonne. You're up early. Hi, Pam. So, yeah, the early birds will be here to see this. And, some people won't get here in time. They'll have to watch on replay crew. This is the only time I could do this update. The updates are important. And today is just, gosh, I keep thinking it's Monday. It's not, it's Tuesday. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are like my busiest days for classes. So I've got classes then till, late. It'd be like about 2:00 before I could talk about it, which I know a lot of my Australian viewers, who of course there are quite a few concerned with this case, they'll probably be tucked up in bed by then. So I thought I'd just do it now. And as I say, probably be a bit of chaos. The shopping will arrive right in the middle of it, no doubt. But anyway, there you go. So let's know. So I just want to let you know that almost immediately Erin got caught in a lie. So I'll be using that siren for the lie almost immediately. As soon as the case got back underway, Erin's back in being cross-examined by Dr. Rogers. And let's just remind ourselves that Erin has pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. She started giving her own evidence in her defence last week. Of course, she got an easy ride from the defence lawyer, but now she's being cross-examined and it's not such an easy ride. And I think this might be a mistake, but I don't think the defence had any, there is no other defence really. So yeah, they've had a long weekend there because of Charlie Boy's birthday. And let's see. So court did not sit yesterday. Friday was a short day in court. Here's Nanette Rogers here. And she's about, so the person that's reporting on this, we're in the ABC News as normal. This guy says he's in the media overflow room today. So it's important to remember this case is not being televised. This trial is not being televised. But I think there's 8 media representatives every day allowed in the actual courtroom. But that's like a question of, they just draw lots really. So it looks like today's in the overflow room. So there's a media overflow room and they are getting to watch the trial, but they cannot take any videos or take any photos. They can only report back to us, what they hear, what they see. So it's subject to their interpretation, of course, but I think the ABC have been very good with their coverage. So he was watching Erin Patterson give evidence on a large screen. I would love to see her giving evidence. I'd like to get body language clues, and the way she actually speaks. I mean, I think they've done quite well of painting a picture of Erin, but it would be nice to actually see for yourself, wouldn't it? Miss Patterson is wearing a dark coloured paisley top, sitting in the witness box she has occupied for the past few days of the weeks-long trial. So yeah, we're in the 7th week. This is a very long trial. It was always said it would last 4 to 6 weeks, and then at some point the judge said, it won't last that long, but it has. It's gone past that. We're now in the 7th week, and to be honest, it looks like it's going to continue for a lot longer now. A lot longer still. And the judge, Justice Beale, let's have a look at him. Hi, Angel. Justice Beale. Where is he? Yeah, he actually said, how long's a piece of string as far as the length of this trial is concerned? So we might still be watching this trial at Christmas at this rate. I mean, he just said it'll take as long as it'll take, and that is fair enough, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's a triple murder trial, an attempted murder trial. It's, it's not a shoplifting case. It needs the time and the attention given to it that it deserves, because these poor souls, 3 of these people are now deceased because of what happened at that lunch, deliberate or not. It was the beef Wellington that killed them. It was the death cap mushrooms in this beef Wellington, regardless of whether they were put there deliberately or not. And of course, Don and Gail, they were Erin Patterson's estranged husband, Simon, his parents. And then this was Heather Wilkinson, Gail's sister, and Ian Wilkinson, the only survivor, although he had to have a liver transplant, but he did survive. He's the only survivor. He's given evidence at the trial that Erin has practically called him a liar, because Erin has refuted the evidence that he's given. She obviously wasn't expecting anyone to survive. And that's something that will come up over and over again. I think the biggest thing that Erin is refuting, that Ian says, because Ian says that Erin invited them to tell them that she had cancer. She's now saying she didn't say that. Where's my siren? Yeah, I mean, she's told so many lies, this woman. It's hard to believe anything she says. That's the problem. I feel like Erin's defense is, oh yeah, told all those lies, but now I'm telling the truth. Isn't it? Lie after lie after lie. She said she had cancer. Then she said, oh, and this is important to what we're going to look at now. She said really she was going to have gastric bypass surgery and she was too embarrassed to say that. So instead she said that she had cancer. Then there's the thing about the plates that I'm obsessed with. Where are the grey plates that Ian says the beef Wellingtons were served on? She says they weren't served on grey plates. You know, another lie. She I'll be playing this bloody siren all through this video because, you know, it's lie after lie after lie. Anyway, as you'll see, she gets started on a lie, you know, as soon as this, hi David, as soon as this this gets going, literally, she's not out of the traps before she starts with a lie. So look, Prosecutor Nanette Rogers picks up her cross-examination right where she left off. On Friday, Erin Patterson told the court she had an appointment booked at an Enrich clinic in Melbourne in early September 2023, and the court hears that the appointment was later cancelled. So remember, she said she had this appointment for gastric bypass surgery, but then Dr. Rogers asked her, oh, the Enrich clinic does not offer gastric bypass surgery or gastric sleeve surgery. Agree or disagree? And this is Erin's stock answer to everything. I don't know, or I don't remember. Anytime she gets into any trouble with her lies, you get I don't know or I don't remember. So she says she's puzzled because she recalls having an appointment with them for gastric bypass surgery. Oh, it would have been related to weight loss surgery. Perhaps it was a different procedure I was doing with them. I was looking into liposuction as well. Hi. There we go again. So, what is it, Erin? Now, I don't know about you. If I was planning gastric bypass surgery, I would remember that it was that or liposuction, not, oh, well, you know, maybe it was liposuction or maybe it was gas, because they are completely different procedures. Maybe they are both weight loss procedures. But you know what? This woman, she tells so many lies. You know, for super sleuth, Erin Patterson, she didn't even find out whether they actually do gastric bypass surgery before she said that's why she was going for an appointment. So Dr. Rogers puts to Miss Patterson that she lied to the court when she said she had an appointment at the clinic for gastric band surgery. And Miss Patterson says, this is what she, no, it wasn't a lie. That's what my memory was. Not a lie. No. Erin Super Sleuth does not tell lies, does she? So we must remember she is innocent till proven guilty. It's the lies that are getting me. You know, you try to keep an open mind, but you know, how many lies can someone tell before you just don't believe anything they say? You know, she's a compulsive liar, this woman, isn't she? I mean, they never stop. These lies never stop. You know, it's just. And everybody else is either, well, she doesn't call the other people a liar. She says that they must have remembered it wrong. Just anyway. Dr. Rogers then returns to visits to the iNaturalist webpage made in May 2022 from a computer later seized by police from Erin Patterson's Leongatha home. Last week, Miss Patterson told the court she couldn't remember if she'd made the search, but she does remember wanting to know if death cap mushrooms grew in Gippsland. If we accept that it was you who was on the iNaturalist webpage or website on this date, you looked at a post relating to observations of death cap mushrooms in Moorabbin, Dr. Rogers says. There's some back and forth as Miss Patterson asked to be taken to the specific record of the website visit logged in forensic analysis of that computer. I suggest that you had an interest in death cap mushrooms generally, which was not limited to whether or not they grew in Gippsland, Dr. Rogers says. Incorrect, Erin replies. Erin gets quite shirty with Dr. Rogers, of course, because Dr. Rogers is challenging her lies. Dr. Rogers summarises Miss Patterson's evidence from last week about whether a visit to the iNaturalist site on May the 28th was the first time she had visited the site. And she said, I don't remember ever visiting iNaturalist. She doesn't remember. I think she's got senile dementia, this woman, or Alzheimer's or something. She needs to be tested because she doesn't remember anything. I suggest you were familiar with the iNaturalist website before this date because you entered iNaturalist as a specific search term. Now, would you know about the iNaturalist website? I mean, we all know about it now, but we've learned about it because of this case. We didn't know about it before. Agree or disagree? Dr. Rogers asks. I would have to disagree, Miss Patterson says. Did you have an interest in death cap mushrooms on the 28th of May 2022? I have no idea. I have no idea. How can she have no idea of what she's got an interest in? You know, how can she have how can she have it's just crazy. Let's have a little. So I don't know, she has no memory of anything, does she? I know nothing. My only interest ever was to find out if they were in South Gippsland or not. And when asked if it was her who navigated the page that day, Miss Patterson replied, well, somebody did, and that somebody could have been me. Of course, she doesn't remember. So, Dr. Rogers has been taking Miss Patterson to more website visits, captured in forensic digital analysis of a computer seized from Miss Patterson's home. The prosecutor asks if it was Miss Patterson who, shortly after viewing the iNaturalist site on May the 28th, 2022, went to the Currumborough Middle Pub's website to buy a meal online. I'm not suggesting anything, Miss Patterson replies when asked if she's suggesting her children access the page. I don't remember if it's me. Oh my God. So whoever was on there searching that, they then went and bought a meal online. And so she's saying to her, was that your children then? Anyway, there's then a bit of an awkward exchange between Miss Patterson and Dr. Rogers. Miss Patterson says, before you do, Dr. Rogers, within this record is that second visit to Bricker Reserve that I was talking about. And Miss Rogers, Dr. Rogers says, I'm the person who asks the questions. If there's something that needs to be clarified in re-examination, then your barrister will do so. And Miss Patterson goes, no problem. Now, I had a friend who used to say, no problem. We're not friends anymore because it's like, no problem, but really, it is a problem. You just know, don't you? It's like, in fact, this Erin, she reminds me of this friend. Unfortunately, that friend, definitely got mental health issues, quite a scary person now, things that I know now. That I didn't know at the time. And I would never have gone to her house for beef Wellington because it was, so dirty. You wouldn't eat anything in there. But, when I think back now, you just think, you just cannot ever be surprised what people are capable of, can you? It's as it yours think. I think sometimes when you see these cases and you think, surely no one would do that. Like, you can't imagine that someone would poison 4 people, but you can never, ever assume that people won't do things. They do them all the time. And we know that from following true crime. People do things you would never expect. And I just think Erin thought she would never get found. This is where I'm going now in my head with it. I just don't think she thought she would get found out. I think she could not believe it when they found really quickly that it was death cap mushrooms. Because, Super Sleuth, as her Facebook friends called her, she didn't realise that actually the hospital are quite good at sleuthing as well. Oh, and here we go with the plates. Erin says that Ian Wilkinson's evidence about the colour of the plates was incorrect. And Ian drilled down on that. He was, the defence asked him, to clarify, to confirm. And this poor guy who's the survivor of this, he's been through enough to be accused of really practically of being a liar. He said that the 4 guests were served on different coloured plates to Erin's. She is saying, no, that's not true. So the prosecutor then takes Erin back to her account of the lunch at the centre of the trial, where her 4 guests ate beef Wellingtons containing death cap mushrooms. The court hears a recap of how Miss Patterson plated up the food, while Ian Wilkinson and Don Patterson were some distance from the bench, which contained the 5 plates. Dr. Rogers then turns to a key point of difference in Erin Patterson and Mr. Wilkinson's evidence of the plates they ate from. Mr. Wilkinson told the jury the 4 guests ate from grey plates. He was clear on that, while their host ate from an orange-coloured one, and none of these plates have ever been found. Mr. Wilkinson told the jury the 4 guests... Dr. Rogers suggests that Erin's account that she only had white, black and red-black plates was a lie, and Miss Patterson rejects the suggestion. So here we go again. Who do we believe? Do we believe Ian or do we believe Erin? Do you say that Ian Wilkinson has given incorrect evidence around the issue of the plates? Dr. Rogers asks. Yes, I do. Everyone's wrong except Erin. Let me just check you're all okay in the chat. You're all okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, David, you should have booked into the memory clinic. So Dr. Rogers then suggests to Erin that contrary to her evidence given last week, she did remember what plate she'd eaten from. Erin says this is incorrect. The court is then shown a photo of the dining table marked up by Ian Wilkinson to indicate where guests were seated. Miss Patterson last week told the court it looked mostly correct, but she recalled Gail and Don were in swapped seating to that outlined by Mr. Wilkinson. Yeah, I thought I remembered facing Gail to talk to her, but I can't be certain. Can't be certain about anything, can you, Erin? Super sleuth. She's not much of a super sleuth when she can't remember anything or be certain of anything. Or where did she get this? I wonder why her Facebook friends started calling her super sleuth. Wasn't because she remembered things, was it? I suggest that after you had plated the food, you carried the smaller plate over to the dining table for yourself. Agree or disagree? Dr. Rogers asked. There was no smaller plate. There was no smaller plate. Let's see, where's my alarm? No smaller plate. I suggest that you knowingly served death cap mushrooms in the 4 separate beef Wellingtons you served up to your 4 lunch guests, Dr. Rogers says. Incorrect, Erin says. Dr. Rogers further puts to Miss Patterson that to avoid any error of accidentally, she wouldn't have wanted to accidentally eat the death cap mushrooms, consuming a poisoned beef Wellington, she took the extra precaution of using a smaller, different coloured plate for herself. The prosecutor puts it to her that this is why she never suffered the Amanita phalloides poisoning that her 4 guests experienced after the meal, and Erin disagrees with each suggestion. Liar, liar, pants very much on fire. So the prosecutor reminded the court about Simon Patterson's evidence, where Heather Wilkinson had asked Erin if Erin was short on plates after being puzzled as to why she allegedly served herself lunch on a different plate to the guests. So even Heather, poor Heather, who's now deceased, but she did give testimony because Simon Patterson, Erin's husband, or estranged husband, he said that Gail had told his mum, had told him, that Gail had mentioned about the plates. So it's not only Ian who's saying about the plates being different. Gail had said it before she unfortunately died. So Erin Patterson told the court she remembered Simon's evidence, but she continued to tell the court she did not serve herself on plates. It's like, yeah, but no, but, yeah, but no, but. It's like, she then stops and says she should clarify her evidence, saying it may be that everyone at the lunch had different plates because she did not have a matching set. Oh, here we go again. Look, I've got to do the, yeah. Now she's saying, so she's changing again. Hang on. So she's saying she should clarify her evidence. She says it may be that everyone at the lunch had different plates because she did not have a matching set. So is she now saying that they did have different plates? And where are these plates? Where are the grey plates? She says that the only way she could reconcile Simon Patterson's evidence was that if she had eaten off a plate her daughter had made in kindergarten, but insisted that she did not deliberately choose which plates to serve her lunch guests with. Oh my God. She's just making it up as she goes along, isn't she? So now she may have eaten off a plate her daughter made in kindergarten. No offense, but you might do that, to please your daughter. But when you're having a dinner, when you're having people round for a dinner, you're not going to eat off a plate that your daughter made in kindergarten, are you? It's just not going to happen. You're having people round for dinner, you're going to eat off a proper plate. Of course you are. God. So Dr. Rogers puts to Erin that she served herself on a different coloured plate. Oh, the only way I can reconcile that is if I had the kindergarten plate. Where is the kindergarten plate then? Where is it? Because it wasn't found. All the plates that the police said that they found there, that wasn't one of them, the orange plate either. But that looks nothing like what Ian described, Miss Patterson says. But when I plated the food, it wasn't for particular people, so I didn't serve myself anything. Dr. Rogers recaps evidence from Erin's son, who recalled stacking white plates into the dishwasher. Dr. Rogers again suggests that Erin's account of the plates was a lie. So he said white, which is nearer to grey, isn't it, than all the other plates were distinctive colours. And her son did say he remembered white plates, but that could well be the grey plates, couldn't it? Miss Patterson again insists the beef Wellingtons were all the same, when Dr. Rogers puts to her that she had made a different one for herself. The prosecutor then moves to the topic of how much of her beef Wellington meal Erin Patterson ate. So she said, I suggest it's not the case that you simply picked at your own meal at the lunch, Dr. Rogers asks. I don't think I claim that, Miss Patterson says. Dr. Rogers recaps banter at the table about how much people had eaten and asserts there was no banter about how much Miss Patterson ate because she ate her meal. Miss Patterson disagrees. The prosecutor recaps how much people ate, starting with Gail, who the court has previously heard ate just half of her meal. It may have been more, it may have been less. I didn't measure it, Miss Patterson responds. Dr. Rogers then moves to an account from Dr. Rhonda Stewart, who previously told the court that Miss Patterson had told her she'd eaten roughly half of her meal. I suggest that you had in fact eaten a whole portion of your serve at the lunch, and you told Professor Stewart, half in an attempt to explain to the medical authorities why your symptoms were not as serious as the symptoms for the other 4 lunch guests. So what she's saying to Erin is, you said that you only ate half so that you try and explain why you didn't have so many. Well, you didn't have any symptoms, did you really? Incorrect, Miss Patterson responds, and then says under questioning she does not recall her conversation with Professor Stewart at all. Sorry, I mean, it's not funny, but she doesn't remember anything, literally. That's what she does when she when she can't answer. She just says, I don't remember, doesn't she? I don't remember. So, Dr. Rogers recaps evidence from child protection worker Katrina Cripps. But don't forget, she's not only refuting Ian's evidence or Simon's evidence. You know, at the end of the day, recollections may vary. We know that. But this is too many people that she's casting aspersions on their recollections. You know, there's too many people. They can't all be wrong. Ian might be wrong. Or Simon might be wrong, or even Ian and Simon might be wrong. But Ian, Simon, the child protection worker, the doctor, the nurse, they can't all be wrong. So Katrina Cripps said Erin Patterson had told her she'd eaten half of her lunch, and the prosecutor again repeats her assertion that this was told to Miss Cripps in a bid to explain why she wasn't as sick as her lunch guests. Again, Miss Patterson rejects it as incorrect. When asked about her memory of that conversation, Miss Patterson recalls that she told Miss Cripps she would have eaten about half. I think what she said and what I said are consistent, quite consistent. She says, I believe I would have told her about half. Dr. Rogers recaps that the court has previously heard those leftovers that were recovered were all of the leftovers of the beef Wellington, including scraped pastry and mushroom. I suggest there were no leftovers from your serving of the beef Wellington at the lunch, Dr. Rogers says, and Erin rejects that as incorrect. Right, now, go into a little bit of detail here. So I'm just warning you, if you haven't had your breakfast yet or your dinner or whatever time it is where you are, just be aware there's going to be talk about loose stools and vomit. Dr. Rogers then moves to another part of Miss Patterson's evidence that she binge ate 2/3 of an orange cake and vomited shortly after the lunch guests had left. See, she's saying that, isn't she, to try and explain why she didn't have many symptoms. You know, there's a few ways she's trying to say she only ate half, then she threw it all up because she binge ate this orange cake. She's making all these reasons, isn't she, why she hasn't, you know, they had these terrible symptoms, violent symptoms, and she had a little bit of diarrhea, didn't she? Did she even have that, to be honest? So she's making up these lies to cover that. So your evidence is that sometime on the that afternoon you caused yourself to vomit, correct? Dr. Rogers asks. Correct, Erin replies. Is it your evidence that the vomit was partly constituted by the beef Wellington? Dr. Rogers asks, and Erin says, sorry about this, but this is what she says. I have no idea what was in the vomit. How could I? It's vomit. Unless you can see a bit. In fact, I'm feeling sick now because I cannot. One thing I can't cope with is vomit, so I need to get through this quick because I could actually be sick. You can see a bean or a piece of corn, Erin says. Well, you didn't have corn at the lunch, Dr. Rogers says. That was an example. She's so leery as well, you know. Everything she says, she's challenging this woman instead of just telling the truth. Thing is, if you've got nothing to hide, you don't have to be worried about being cross-examined, do you? Erin Patterson is focused on the prosecutor during this fairly rapid line of questioning, blinking repeatedly. Doesn't that mean blinking repeatedly means thinking hard, apparently, according to body language experts? I bet she is thinking hard. Then the prosecutor just comes right out with it and accuses her of lying. She then moves to the topic of what Erin Patterson told people about her consumption of beef Wellington in the days after the lunch. I don't agree that I ever said I only ate half, Miss Patterson says, later adding, I didn't have a tape measure. Right, got to put this. So, yeah, see how leery she is? See how leery she is? You know, she's, I didn't have a tape measure. She's being sarcastic. People. Red flag warning. 3 people are dead. And 1 person only recovered by the skin of his teeth. And she's like, you know, I didn't have a tape measure. You know, like being leery. I just don't think you would be leery in that circumstance. So Dr. Rogers puts to Erin Patterson that she's lying to the jury about vomiting after the lunch in a bid to downplay how much food she ate. I wish that was true, but it's not. Why does she wish that was true? What do you mean? Why would you wish that was true? I wish that was true, but it's not. What a ridiculous statement, Miss Patterson says. Dr. Rogers then recaps that the court has previously heard another person at the lunch ate half their beef Wellington, Gail Patterson. So poor Gail, she also only ate half, and Don, her husband, he supposedly finished off her half. So the court has heard that Gail told multiple people, including medical staff, that she'd only eaten half of her portion of the beef Wellington. But Erin agrees that her evidence now is that Gail had eaten quite a lot. So, right, God, back to the thing. So even the dead woman, even her dead mother-in-law, she's querying what she said. Gail herself said she'd only ate half. And Erin is saying she'd eaten quite a lot, actually. Oh, my God, this woman is not, you know, honestly, the more we go into this, you just think she's pure evil, this woman. But she adds, but these are guesses. And Dr. Rogers says, I suggest you have told this jury that Gail ate quite a lot to try and explain away why she was so much sicker than you. And Erin rejects the suggestion as incorrect. Dr. Rogers then moves to the aftermath of the lunch and puts to Erin Patterson that she never told her son or daughter she was sick on the Saturday. She says she can't recall if she did or didn't tell either of them on the Saturday. And Dr. Rogers then moves to evidence from Erin's son, who told the court that on the Sunday morning after the lunch, his mum, I thought the lunch was on Sunday, wasn't it? On the Sunday morning after the lunch. I thought the lunch was on a Sunday, but anyway, his mum was having coffee when he came downstairs. Erin says that's not true. Yeah, I think this is the Monday morning. She's previously told the court she was drinking something like a lemon and ginger tea from a coffee mug. But she disagrees with evidence from her son, so her son's got it all wrong now as well, who the court has previously heard, recalled his mother telling him they couldn't go to church that morning. Disagree, Erin says. Of course, who is a son now making it all up? Son's making it up now, for God's sake. So my memory of that conversation is very different. Would you like to hear it? Erin asks. And Dr. Rogers replies that she would. So Miss Patterson says she got up and checked on her son's bedroom, but he was already downstairs lying on the couch, and he told her he had a sore tummy and asked if they could skip church. So because she didn't go to church on Sunday morning. This is the Sunday morning, definitely. Not, I think they got the days mixed up there. So Dr. Rogers says, I suggest that that's a lie. And Miss Patton replies, it's not. It's her son who's lying. Then they take, so the prosecutor moves the question into a trip to Tayab made by Erin and the children the day after the lunch. The courts previously heard the trip was made for a planned flying lesson. So remember this was Erin's son's flying lesson. So although Erin supposedly was ill, she decided to go for an hour and a half's drive, take him to this flying lesson. She stopped for 9 seconds in a service station. She said that she had to stop at some point and go to the toilet behind a tree in the bush. That's what she said, but you'll see her son refutes that. And anyway, in the end, the flying lesson was cancelled. It was ultimately cancelled due to poor weather, and then they decide to go for a break. So, and after the break, let me just make sure you're all okay after just checking on you. Hi, sheep farmer. So then prosecutor Nanette Rogers asks Erin Patterson about her car trip to Tayab with her children the day after the lunch. And Dr. Rogers says the courts previously heard that Erin's son told his mother she didn't have to take him if she didn't feel well, but she was keen to go. You just wouldn't go, would you, if you weren't feeling well, especially if you've got an upset tummy. You're not going to want to get in your car and drive for an hour and a half or whatever it was. I was pretty keen to take him, yep, Erin says. Dr. Rogers, so again, we're probably going to go into bowel movements and things, so just to warn you. Dr. Rogers then shifts focus to phone conversations between Simon and Erin about her diarrhea during the period after the lunch. The prosecutor says that Simon previously told the court Erin had told him she was experiencing D, I'm not going to say the whole word, as early as mid-afternoon Saturday. Erin can't recall saying that. So Erin had told Simon that. So I've got to go back to the... I'm going to be wearing this out this over. So she told Simon that, but she can't remember saying it. She can't remember saying it along with everything else. The prosecutor says Simon's evidence was that Erin had told him she'd felt unwell on the Saturday evening and had struggled to drop her son's friend back home. My memory was I'd had a few loose bowel movements before then. I wouldn't call it D, Erin says. Dr. Rogers then asks if, in line with Simon's evidence, Erin had told Simon she was suffering from frequent D, perhaps every 20 minutes. And Erin says she might have described it that way at its worst. So she's got frequent D, frequent diarrhea, every 20 minutes, and she decides to go on this hour and a half car journey. In response to a detailed line of questioning about the frequency and scope of D she conveyed to Simon during that time, Erin says it's very hard to dissect sentences up into tiny parts and analyse them. Dr. Rogers then asked Miss Patterson if she agreed with Simon's evidence that during this time period she told him she would poo my pants while driving, and she says, I did not tell him. I was afraid I would poo my pants. Here we go again. Simon, Erin, not Erin, Simon. Just, I don't know. I've forgotten which one. I'm going up. So then the prosecutor's line of questioning returns to the car trip to Tayab made by Erin and her children on Sunday for a planned flying lesson for Erin's son. And the court hears that Erin's son told the police at no time on the trip did his mother need to go to the toilet. But Miss Patterson, remember, told the court her diarrhea had forced her to stop by the side of the highway and relieve herself in some bushes. So I wonder again, who's telling the truth? Is it Erin or her son? Who do you think is telling the truth? The court briefly focuses on the frustration Erin expressed to her son's flying instructor when the lesson was cancelled at the last minute after they'd travelled about an hour from Leongatha. Pretty sure I did complain, yes, because I'd had a lot of problems with Tayab over the months that my son was doing his flying lessons. On the way back, she says they stopped at Kuwi Rup and her children got out of the car. She says her son bought her a coffee, which she drank a little of. She said she probably threw the rest out. On the Monday morning, after the Saturday lunch, the court has heard Erin's son recalled he came downstairs. It was a Sunday lunch. It was Sunday, not Saturday. So this guy's getting this wrong here. It was definitely Sunday at 12, wasn't it? The lunch. Now I'm thinking, oh God, am I wrong? But I'm sure it was Sunday. Anyway, the court has heard Erin's son recalled he came downstairs and his mother was drinking coffee at the dining table. Miss Patterson says she wasn't drinking coffee from the mug. Dr. Rogers then walked through the following events where the children were taken to the bus to go to school. Miss Patterson says she did call Simon and ask him to help drive her to Leongatha Hospital, but she disputes. She told him she feared she would poo her pants. And then a little after 8 a.m. on the Monday, the court hears that Erin Patterson arrived at Leongatha's urgent care centre and reported her gastro symptoms to the doctor. The doctor, Chris Webster, has previously told the court when Miss Patterson told her his name, he brought her into the urgent care department because they were expecting Erin, weren't they? Did he indicate at that point whether or not he recognised you as being the chef of the lunch on the 29th? Yes, he did, Erin replied. Dr. Webster previously told the court that he told Miss Patterson there was a concern about death cap mushroom poisoning and he asked her where she got the mushrooms. But Miss Patterson says she doesn't think he asked her where she got the mushrooms. That's not my memory, no, Erin says. Here we go again. So the doctor is not telling the truth either. So, that's everybody's not telling the truth. Her estranged husband, deceased Gail, Ian Wilkinson, now the doctor, her son. None of them are telling the truth. Only Erin's telling the truth. It's just weird, just very strange, isn't it? Very, very strange how she's just saying nobody else is telling the truth, but she is, even though she's admitted to other lies. So Dr. Rogers goes on to say, so your evidence is you did not reply Woolworths to his question, where did you get the mushrooms? And Erin says her memory is that wasn't the question from Dr. Webster. God. My memory of that conversation is different, Erin says. What I remember is when I told him my name, he immediately communicated that meant something to him, like he recognised who Erin Patterson is. And he brought me through the doors, and I remember him saying something to me like, were you the chef or were you the host? And I remember him saying to me, did you make the beef Wellingtons or buy them pre-made? And that stuck in my memory because I didn't know you could buy them pre-made. Well, even I know that you can. Erin Patterson says she then recalls asking the doctor some questions, but he walked away. The doctor walked away. It wasn't her who ignored people's questions. Remember, some of the people have said they asked her, did she forage for the mushrooms, and she just blanked them. Well, that's not true. It was the doctor ignored her questions. So his evidence was that she didn't ask him any questions, of course. She's saying now she asked him questions and he just walked away. I asked him a question or two and he was very busy and walked off to do other things and left me with a nurse. But I remember saying to him at the very least, why do you think we've eaten death cap mushrooms? Oh my God. And I remember him walking away. So this doctor who's fighting to save the lives of 3 people, well, 4 people, he did manage to save the life of Ian. So he's just walked away when she's trying to, when they're trying to gather evidence about what's happened. He's just ignored her. Oh my God, this woman is unbelievable, isn't she? So whether he heard me or not, I don't know. Oh my God, where's this bloody alarm? I mean, she's thrown the doctor. She's thrown the doctor under the bus now. Oh my God, what an awful woman she is. I mean, she seriously is an awful woman. And it's getting more and more awful by the minute. Dr. Rogers then moves to Erin Patterson's decision to leave the hospital shortly after her arrival. So remember, she only stayed at the hospital 5 minutes, despite being told that she may have death cap mushroom poisoning and she should not leave. So in the end, the hospital phoned the police for her own safety. So the court has previously heard when Dr. Webster learnt of this, he rang and left 3 voicemail messages on her phone because he was concerned for her welfare. I didn't answer his calls, but I did ring the hospital back a couple of times. I couldn't get through to him, I think twice, Erin says. Miss Patterson rejects the suggestion she chose deliberately not to answer his calls or respond to his voicemails. I did try to respond twice. Dr. Rogers asks when between leaving the hospital about 8:10 and returning at 9:48 a.m. So she was gone. She got suspected death cap mushroom poisoning that could kill her. She's been told she might have to have a transplant. And she was gone 1 hour and 38 minutes. So Dr. Rogers asks when during this time did she try to return the doctor's call, and she says she can't specify an exact time. Surely they know from her phone records if that's true or not. I mean, to me, it obviously isn't true, but I would think that'd be easy to prove one way or another, wouldn't it? So then the hospital nurse, Kylie Ashton, we heard her testimony. She told the court that when Erin Patterson returned to the hospital, she was reluctant to undergo a formal assessment in a patient bay. I wasn't willing to come into a bay to be hooked up for IV. Not sure about that informal assessment, Patterson tells the court. She says she was anxious because she couldn't get information from Miss Ashton about what was happening to the other lunch guests. I can't remember her talking to me about the others at all, Miss Patterson says. Dr. Rogers recaps that Miss Ashton's evidence was that Miss Patterson would probably need to receive liver-protecting treatment in light of the suspected death cap mushroom poisoning. I just remember being told I needed treatment for the mushroom poisoning, something like that. Now, did you think you would remember, wouldn't you, if somebody told you that you may need a liver transplant or you need liver protecting treatment, that these mushrooms can kill you, I do think that you might remember that, somehow. Surely you would remember that, for goodness sake. Yeah, Yvonne, I bet she did. I bet she did poop. I think she just thought she was so clever. And as soon as they would have said to her about the death cap mushroom poisoning, she would have. It's like she's probably started thinking now she's got to get home and, clear away evidence, etc. So it made her anxious. Also, now she's disputing the evidence given by the nurse. The court hears that Miss Patterson told her she wasn't prepared to be admitted to hospital. She needed to go and look after her animals. But Dr. Rogers puts it to Miss Patterson that the nurse had told her about the other unwell guests and had warned her that her life was at risk. She did not say that, Miss Patterson says. She says there was no conversation about her children at this point, again disputing another part of the nurse's evidence. And Miss Patterson agrees that she signed a discharge against medical advice form and then left the hospital. Liar, liar, pants on fire. So then Dr. Rogers puts it to Erin that she was stressed during that hospital visit because the doctors had suggested death cap mushroom poisoning had occurred. And I suggest, says Dr. Rogers, you were shocked that the doctors were onto death cap so quickly. And then Erin says, I was anxious at the idea we might have eaten those things. And Dr. Rogers says, and you were worried that you were going to get caught. Correct or incorrect? Incorrect, Erin replies. You weren't prepared to answer questions about why death cap mushrooms were in the meal. Correct or incorrect? I'm not sure anyone asked me, so I'm not sure what you're referring to, Erin replies, and the jury breaks for lunch. So they come back from lunch and she's asked about her visit to Leongatha Hospital on Monday, July the 31st. It's saying it was a Saturday lunch. I don't know why I had it in my head it was a Sunday lunch. So they didn't get ill until Sunday. When did they get ill on the Sunday? Yeah. Okay, so it was a Saturday lunch. So this is 2 days later. Gosh, it took them a long time, didn't it, to get ill from after they had the lunch? God, it did take a long time for them to get ill. Anyway, so she's asked about her hospital visit. So Dr. Rogers jumps back to the start of the Monday when Erin first left the hospital at about 8:10 after staying for just over 10 minutes. Medical staff even went outside with you to stress you should not leave. And she does agree that's what happened. But she says she remembers the emphasis was more on her signing the discharge form before leaving. Well, yeah, because they don't want to get sued, do they? The examination then turns to what staff told Miss Patterson about her life being in danger and the need to treat her immediately. I do remember it being communicated to me that the medication was time critical. It needed to be done, within a timely manner. I suggest that you knew your life was not threatened at this point. Agree or disagree? Dr. Rogers says. I wouldn't say I knew. I didn't think it was. Yeah, she knew. In my opinion. I suggest that your behaviour at leaving Leongatha Hospital a few minutes after you'd presented there was because you knew you had not consumed death cap mushrooms. Agree or disagree? Dr. Rogers asks. I didn't think any of us had, but that wasn't why I was leaving. No, Miss Patterson replies. Dr. Rogers puts to Miss Patterson she was rattled that doctors had uncovered the presence of death cap mushrooms in the meal so quickly. I think that's exactly what happened, but anyway. So the cross-examination then turns to whether Erin Patterson went and had a lie down after she left the hospital. Dr. Rogers suggests that having a lie down would be the last thing you do after being told you'd potentially been exposed to a dangerous poison. Yeah, could you imagine somebody telling you, oh, you may have eaten death cap mushrooms and you may die, so you think, oh, just go and have a lie down. It's like, you wouldn't think that you'd ever get up again, would you? You would think, you're not going to go and have a lie down. You couldn't have prized me out of that hospital if I thought I'd been poisoned. My kids would be the next ones to come to the hospital because she was reluctant to take the kids as well. So it might be the last thing you do, but it was something I'd do, Miss Patterson says. It might be the last thing you'd do, but it was something I'd do. Okay. And she disputed that anyone had told her life was at risk. But they told you that they suspected death cap mushroom poisoning, correct? And Miss Patterson, said yes. So she's saying they didn't tell her life was at risk, which is a direct contradiction to what they said because, they tried to sort of frighten her because they were concerned that she was going to leave the hospital. They told her that she would likely have to have a transplant if she had been poisoned, etc. She's saying that they were lying. Good God. She's unbelievable. Questioning then zeroes in on where Erin Patterson was on the Monday morning during a roughly 90-minute period when she was away from Leongatha Hospital. And Dr. Rogers recaps past evidence from an expert witness that suggested that Erin's phone had moved towards the Outram postcode on Monday. He said that the most consistent explanation for these records is you taking the major road southwest of Leongatha. And Dr. Rogers suggests that after leaving the hospital, she drove along the Bass Highway towards Outram. I did not, and that's not possible, Miss Patterson replies, disputing that the Bass Highway leads towards Outram. So not only everybody's lying, but also the highway's wrong as well. Miss Patterson says she remained at her house in the time between leaving Leongatha Hospital at 8:10 and returning about 90 minutes later. She just went home, according to her. Where's my liar thing? Come on. So for 90 minutes, she just went home and had to lie down. Do you believe that? Someone's just told you you may have death cap mushroom poisoning. You go home and have a lie down for 90 minutes or an hour. Dr. Rogers suggests that feeding the animals and packing her daughter's ballet bag did not take up the full period of 1 hour and 40 minutes that Erin was absent from the hospital. The prosecutor puts to Miss Patterson that she used this time to determine what to do next. Get rid of those plates. That's when those plates, God knows where she took them, those grey plates and that pink plate or orange plate that she used. That's when she got rid of them, I think. Anyway, after realising her death cap mushroom poisoning plot was at risk of being uncovered by doctors, Erin rejects that suggestion. What are you saying I was doing? Erin asks. Thinking about ways to cover your tracks, Dr. Rogers says. Oh, listen to this. Talk about Larry. I should have a Larry button as well. Oh, okay. You're saying I spent about an hour and a half thinking. Is that what you're suggesting? I'm sure I did some thinking in that time, but it was not about covering my tracks, Erin says. She's a Larry alleged murderer. She's a Larry alleged murderer. Oh, right, great. Now we're taken to Erin's bowel movements in hospital. So a medical worker said she told staff a bedpan with liquid in it was a bowel motion, despite it looked like wee. I think I did say something like that. Yeah, Miss Patterson agrees. The court is then shown a bowel chart for Miss Patterson, documented by a hospital worker during her time there. It notes 3 trips to the toilet within 6 minutes, and Dr. Rogers asked if Miss Patterson felt the need to reassure the staff that it was a bowel motion, and Miss Patterson responds that she wanted staff to know she was not an idiot after they'd requested a stool sample. There's this liquid. I didn't want her to think I was an idiot that did a wee instead of a stool, Miss Patterson says. And Dr. Rogers asks if it was really a bowel motion on all 3 occasions, documented on the bowel chart, and Miss Patterson says yes to each. Liar, liar, pants on fire. So then the prosecutor moves to evidence given by the Dr. Chris Webster, who told the court he'd warned Erin her children's lives were at risk and they must come to the hospital. She agrees he told her that the children could be scared and alive or dead. When she expressed reluctance about bringing them into hospital, he made it clear that he thought they might be at risk, she says. And Dr. Rogers says in the face of that, she was reluctant to tell the children. Miss Patterson says the doctor's comments struck her as bizarre, and he was yelling at her at the time. Although she adds, she's since discovered that that was the doctor's inside voice. So Dr. Webster previously commented in his evidence that he had a loud voice that could easily be heard. The thing is, when someone's telling you your children need checking over because they might be poisoned, you wouldn't think it was bizarre, would you? It seems like everybody cared about Erin's children, but she didn't give a shit because she knew 100% that they had not ingested any poison, didn't she? That's the only reason you'd be so sort of relaxed about it. Let me just check you're all okay. I think you are. Hi, Loneslow. Yeah, you know, it just the more this case goes on, the more you do feel, you know, I can't say it's a case that the more I watch it, I start to question Erin's guilt. You know, it's the more I watch it, I become more and more convinced of Erin's guilt. You know, that's just the way I feel. So Dr. Rogers says about this time, Erin would have been feeling stressed about people figuring out that she had included death cap mushrooms in the meal. But Miss Patterson says this is incorrect. She then asked about a conversation with another nurse during that morning when they told the trial they'd expressed concern to her about her children's health if they'd eaten leftovers from the meal. Miss Patterson says she doesn't recall the conversation at all, and the evidence of the health worker baffles me a little bit. I think her times are out a bit. So the health worker's wrong as well. The nurse gave evidence that Miss Patterson became teary while discussing her children and the health risk and was telling the nurse she didn't want to involve them. It's not a question of whether you want to involve them or not. They could be dying. You know, so she always does get upset, doesn't she, when it's about her children. But the thing is, surely you would be so paranoid that your children might be deathly ill. Why is she doesn't even worry about that? Anyway, she said that doesn't make sense because her estranged husband would have been on the way to pick up the children by this point in time. The nurse told the trial that the doctor then joined the conversation and reassured Miss Patterson that the treatment would help her and her children. I dispute the timing of that conversation, Miss Patterson says. So, you know, as I say, it's not just one person she's disputing evidence of it, is it? It's several people. In fact, everyone except her. Everyone except her is giving false evidence, it seems. To me, anyway. So Dr. Rogers then recounts how a nurse, Cindy Munro, gave evidence that while she was cannulating Miss Patterson, the accused said she didn't want any interventions. Miss Patterson says she never said she didn't want the treatment. That's what I was in hospital for. So the nurse is telling lies as well. She then rebuts more details of the nurse's evidence. I remember the conversation with Cindy and I was very upset, but she's taken a different angle on what happened than is my memory. There's a word salad again, isn't it? So she stopped short of saying that Cindy Munro is a liar, but what she's saying is it's not what she remembers, but most of the time she can't remember anything, can she? So the cross-examination then moves to a conversation with Simon, in which Erin told him she had wanted to pick up the kids from school. She agrees that Simon asked if she was well enough to pick them up, and then she agreed he could pick them up. She's asked if she paused after Mr. Patterson asked her if she was well enough to pick up the children. I have no idea, Miss Patterson says. And Dr. Rogers says, I suggest you paused because you realise that if you insisted on going to pick up the children, that would undermine your claims that you've been unwell. Well, I don't know if I paused or not, so I can't really agree with what you're saying. But the only thing I remember out of that interaction was, I remember he said it in a really sarcastic tone that put me off a bit. And then Dr. Rogers says what we're all thinking. Are you making this up as you go along? And Miss Patterson goes, no. The questioning now moves to the ambulance trip from Leongatha Hospital to Monash Medical Centre, when one of the medical staff described her as calm and chatty. Erin disputes she was calm. She disputes everything, saying that she felt a lot of anxiety. She didn't need to use the toilet during the 90-minute journey, the court hears. And a doctor at Monash's toxicology department, Laura Muldoon, previously told the court that Miss Patterson had told her she'd had explosive diarrhea every 10 minutes. I certainly wouldn't have said I had it every 10 minutes for 2 days, but at its worst it may have been like that, Miss Patterson says, when asked whether the evidence was accurate. Little break. All right, we're going into loose stools. Sorry about this. Erin explains the difference between loose stools and diarrhea, as it, because we all want to know that, don't we? We're all waiting for this explanation, aren't we? Just before the break, Dr. Rogers asked Erin about the evidence given by Victorian health official Sally Ann Atkinson. Miss Atkinson last month told the court that Miss Patterson had told her she'd begun to feel a little unwell shortly before the midnight after the lunch, but explosive D began and continued through the night. Dr. Rogers notes this timeline of D commencement differs from the evidence of Simon Patterson, who told the court Miss Patterson had informed him that diarrhea had started earlier on the Saturday. And Miss Patterson says she believes she told her husband about loose stools, not diarrhea, at that point. Oh, God, now we're getting into a bloody... Oh, hang on a sec, that might be the shopping. Just one sec. Right, come on, you dogs. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Go on, in. Hold on, go on now. Okay, so if you were here at the beginning of this video, you'll know I was expecting a shopping delivery, so it's arrived. So, oh, I've just had to put the dogs in there. All right. Okay, so I should be able to carry on with it. I've opened the door. So, yeah, so we're having this big debate now about what's the difference between loose stools and diarrhea. In my book, diarrhea is liquid, loose stools are loose stools, Miss Patterson begins. And she references the Bristol stool chart, telling the Crown prosecutor that the measurement tool illustrates a... Hola, pasa. Ponlo allí en el centro de la... Aquí. Yeah, vale. Sí, aquí. Perfecto. Thank you. So she's been super sleuthing, hasn't she, by the sound of it? She's been looking up the Bristol stool chart and telling the Crown prosecutor that the measurement tool illustrates a spectrum of firmness to describe stools. Loose stools are somewhere along the line to diarrhea, but not quite there yet, she says. So she's been doing that investigating, hasn't she? She's definitely been... Hi, Joanne. She's definitely been doing that investigating. Hi, Tracy. No pasa nada, está roto. Yeah, so she's definitely been planning that, to talk about this Bristol stool chart. I mean, who would know about that? So then the hearing... Oh, so they must have a break. I bet they needed a break after that. Vale. Perfecto. Gracias. Hasta luego. Let me see where I am now. Of course, I've got all confused where I am now. Where's it going? So the hearing... So now we move to evidence given by her sister-in-law, Tanya, who got in touch to check on how she was going. Erin agrees she likely told Tanya she was feeling nauseous and tired, and that Tanya arrived to visit her at Monash Medical Centre at about 9:30 on the Tuesday after the lunch. And Erin agrees she was well enough to pop her head out of the hospital room to tell Tanya which room she was in. Well, it's funny that the other three were in comas, you know, or the other four. They all were so deathly ill, but Erin popped her head out the hospital room. So Dr. Rogers puts it to Erin that by this stage she knew her parents-in-law, Don and Gail, were in comas. And she says, I did not know that, and I don't think they were. So I think that's got to go for another. You know, I'm going to wear this button out at this rate. Everything that comes out of her mouth is a lie, isn't it? Let's go for the 10 updates. Right, where were we? Oh my God. So, yeah, they go. So then Tanya Patterson previously told the court that during her visit to Erin, a toxicologist entered and said that Erin was fine and well enough to go home. She also told the court that Erin had flagged low potassium with her and a doctor, who had told her that her levels were fine and not as low as might be expected in someone who had severe diarrhea. She indicated that they were fine that morning, yes, Erin says. Because they were fine, she was fine. Dr. Rogers asked Erin if she told child protection worker Katrina that she'd stayed in the car after dropping her son's friend home after the Saturday lunch, because she believed sitting could act as a cork and prevent an accident in relation to her diarrhea. Erin said she possibly did, But if I did think I was getting confused with the drive the next day to Tayab, I suggest that what you told her about sitting down acting like a cork to prevent an accident was untrue. You were not fearful of having an accident. And Miss Patterson repeats that her fear of diarrhea did not exist at the time that she dropped her son's friend home on Saturday night. I had a lot of people ask me the same questions over and over again, and I felt unwell and anxious, confused and stressed, Miss Patterson says of her mindset when Miss Cripps was asking her questions. I was doing my best to answer everyone's questions, but I may have gotten things a little bit wrong along the way. Well, a little bit. So Dr. Rogers recaps to Miss Patterson that she told many people, including health professionals, her children, child protection workers, and Simon Patterson, that she was suffering from nausea, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. The reason you told so many people you were unwell was because you wanted it to appear to all those people that you were in contact with that you were also unwell from the lunch, Dr. Rogers suggests. Incorrect, Miss Patterson responds. Dr. Rogers suggests that Miss Patterson wanted to make out she was seriously unwell, with claims of explosive diarrhea and a pain score of 7 out of 10. And Erin replies, I think seriously unwell is subjective. I said what I said. What the hell does that mean? Anyway. So Dr. Rogers takes Miss Patterson to the medical test results showing her potassium levels were low on the night of Monday, July the 31st, and then progressively improved into Tuesday morning. Liver function tests conducted on Miss Patterson showed no sign of liver injury according to previous medical evidence. I suggest that you were not seriously unwell because you did not consume even a minute amount of death cap mushrooms at the lunch. What do you say? Dr. Rogers asks. I have no idea if I did or I didn't, she replies. You were not suffering from death cap mushroom poisoning. I suggest you deliberately tried to make it seem like you were. You did that because you knew you had not eaten death cap mushrooms. Incorrect, Miss Patterson says, and you knew how suspicious it would look if you did not seem sick like your guests. 100%. This prosecution lawyer is spot on. Anyway, Erin denies it, of course. So the prosecution then pivots to the evidence surrounding the discovery of leftovers from the lunch in a bin at Erin Patterson's home. A police witness previously told the court how he'd found the leftovers in an outside bin with assistance from Miss Patterson. And Dr. Rogers says the leftovers he found contained a single beef Wellington cut in half. Well, you know, she left the leftovers that she wanted to leave, didn't she, I suppose? Oh, she disagrees with that as well. Miss Patterson disagrees, saying it contained the mushroom and pastry from one full beef Wellington and the mushrooms and pastry from the bit I didn't eat. So now the policeman's a liar as well. Policeman's lying along. Oh, crazy, isn't it? How everybody is lying. Everyone is lying except for Erin, according to her. According to her. And she says she had eaten somewhere between a quarter, a third, or a half of a beef Wellington. What? So she'd eaten somewhere between a quarter, a third, or a half. Right, okay. Whereas everybody else said she'd eaten all of it. Anyway, Dr. Rogers suggests that the 6 beef Wellington Miss Patterson had prepared was for Simon. and was thrown in the bin. And Miss Patterson disagrees, saying she didn't prepare the 6 beef Wellington for Simon. I did not make that one for him. It was just an extra one. Sorry, that's a lie as well, because she was always hoping that he would come, wasn't she? Remember, she sent him that message saying, I hope to see you there tomorrow. So she wouldn't have, she was hoping that he would come. So of course she would have had a beef Wellington ready for him, poisoned or not. She's not going to be saying to him, I hope you come tomorrow. They're coming at 12:30 like she did, and not have any food for him to eat. So, it's obvious she's lying again. Oh my God. Hey, Heather, how are you? So, crazy. And Dr. Rogers suggests the steak was removed from the leftover beef Wellington before the mushroom and pastry from that item were put in the bin. And Erin says the meat was removed and ultimately put into my children's stomachs. She's a leery cow, isn't she? Do you know what I mean? It's like she doesn't, take it seriously at least, Erin, not, making sarcastic comments. Miss Patterson has previously told the court she fed her children the meat as leftovers for dinner on Sunday. Well, that's probably where I've got the Sunday thing from, because that's when they had the leftovers. I suggest that you certainly did not feed that steak to your children, but we've been over that anyway. You no doubt disagree with me, Dr. Rogers says, and Erin says correct. And then the cross-examination returns to the assistance Erin gave police from hospital as they located lunch leftovers at her home. Dr. Rogers puts it to Miss Patterson that she assisted police to find the leftovers because she knew she had no means of removing the leftovers from the bin by herself. Why wouldn't I just say there were no leftovers? That seems really convoluted. Oh my God, she's like almost cross-examining the prosecutor. But she agrees that she did assist police. Because if you hadn't told them where the leftovers were, it would have been suspicious. Do you agree or disagree? Dr. Rogers asks, and she says, no idea about that. So, gosh, we're not even... That was the end of it, because the hearing, it must have been 4:00 in Australia. The hearing was finished until tomorrow, and we go on more cross-examination tomorrow. And on here, they were saying this trial could still go on for another couple of weeks. I mean, it's because Erin has taken the stand. Once Erin took the stand and gave all her lengthy defence, now, of course, it's going to be an even lengthier, probably, cross-examination, because her taking the stand has given all this, has given so much more weight to everything. If Erin wouldn't have taken the stand, we would have a verdict by now, wouldn't we? We'd have a verdict by now if Erin hadn't taken the stand. But she did. For better or worse, I think for worse, to be honest, I think it was a big mistake, but there you go. What else was there to do? She took the stand, and that has opened it up, of course, for the prosecution to go through everything she said, and with a fine-tooth comb. And she's shown herself up, even, to just be a sarcastic, leery, strange person in her responses. And the jury, of course, the jury have got a better idea because the jury can actually see her. It's difficult when you can't see her and judge what to think, but the jury will make their decision, won't they? So I may be back later on with another case, but tomorrow morning I would definitely be back with the next instalment of this. I'm getting all confused with days now. I keep thinking it's Monday, but it's Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I have got some classes in the morning, but I think I can come on and talk about it a bit later than I have today. I had to get on early today because I've got to go now, put my shopping away. Then I've got to go and teach some Spanish. But tomorrow I can come on a little bit later. Oh, that's interesting, Joanne. The thing is, the definite thing, well, whether she's guilty of murder or not, the jury have got to decide. But one thing that has come out of this trial, that 100% irrefutable, even Erin has admitted it herself, is she is a liar. She is a liar. She just is. So what she's basically saying is, yes, I've lied. I lied about not having a dehydrator. I lied about never foraging for mushrooms. I lied about getting them from the Asian supermarket. She lied about all these different things. But now she's telling the truth. So what she's saying is, forget all those lies that are told. Now I'm telling the truth. And you've got to believe me. So, you know, there you go. That's exactly, I feel for her children, because they've lost their grandparents. They're probably going to lose their mum because she's likely to go to prison. And they nearly lost their dad, you know. Anyway, I've got to go, I'm afraid. So listen, have a brilliant day, afternoon or evening, whatever you're doing. Thank you so much for watching. Let me just put, there's ultimately, I mean, I've got the picture of them up in the left-hand corner, but I want to put the bigger picture of him. Ultimately, this case is about these people. 3 people dead, you know, and if Erin is found guilty, this is the most horrendous crime, because this is someone who sat there and watched them eat it, knowing it was going to, well, at least make the meal, if not kill them. Watched them eat every mouthful, chatted to them, told them she had cancer when she didn't. They all prayed for her at the end. So even now what she was saying is the reason why she said she had cancer, because she's saying, oh, she was too embarrassed that she was going to have a gastric bypass. Even that's been proven a lie now. So now it could have been liposuction, because she's been exposed that the appointment she said she had at the place she said she had it, they don't do gastric bypass. So now she's saying, oh, well, it might have been liposuction. So she sat with all these people, ate with them, let them pray for her, let them feel sorry for her. And all the time she knew. Did she know? I think she knew. She knew she was feeding them death cap mushrooms. And 3 of them died. And one of them is there to tell the tale. But now she's really calling him a liar, because she's saying that his testimony is not true. She's a horrible woman, isn't she? Okay, I'm going. Thank you so much. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God, I've got to go and put the shopping away and have some breakfast now. It's like, don't know if I fancy eating anything now. And then I've got to start my classes. So I'll see you really soon in the next video. Take care, and may your God go with you. Bye.